morning, Ranji. Good
I'm
morning,
the
Dr.
first one to come in.
Talaga.
I have to
breakfast of the
prepare.
two kids.
I
They are
really
here.
have to prepare because I have a lot of, gadget here. Backup, my backup gadget, just in case my internet is kind of slow. So I have to go to my data if ever I'll be disconnected.
Talagang palagi tayo may backup.
Okay, ladies, we are now live on YouTube. Oh, Cherise is with us. Renardo, welcome. You might like to introduce yourself to Dr. Doom.
Hello,
Hello, Dr. Dan.
how are you?
I'm good.
That's good.
Welcome to the group.
Thank you for having me. It's 7:47 p.m. in New Jersey in America, and it's 7:47 a.m. for you guys.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly. 7:47 here on my cell phone.
It's amazing that we're 12 hours apart,
It's dark in your place, and here in our country, it's starting to sun
Yes.
getting up.
Yeah, the sun hasn't gone down yet, so there's still light out. It's it'll start going down, I guess, within the hour. Yeah.
So the sunset in your place is around 8 p.m.
Yeah. It's amazing. Here, I'll show you. You can see out my window. So it's
Okay.
the sun's
Where
still.
are you based, Dr. Dan?
I'm in New Jersey. In New Jersey.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Like 12 hours.
East Coast. East Coast.
Okay. While waiting for the others, I have to mute my microphone now.
We are now on YouTube live. Ginny, would you like to introduce yourself to Dr. Doom?
Hello.
Good morning, Sir Dune.
Hello. How are you?
Hi. Yes, I'm fine. I'm sorry. I was just fixing my microphone a while
No,
ago.
that's okay. How's it
But
going?
yeah, it's okay.
Sophie, nice to meet you.
Yeah, finally nice to meet you too.
Yeah.
And but is it okay? Everything's okay now.
Yes.
everything's clear.
Yes.
Yes, yes. So you're ready. You're ready now.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm ready. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. I wish you the best in your talk,
Thank you.
Nathan.
Thank you. Hopefully it's not the worst talk you guys have heard. So
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully, yeah. Of course
Hopefully.
not. Yes, it will
Yes.
be a good talk. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, we'll see. We'll have fun with it.
Yes, yes. Thank you,
You're welcome.
Molly.
I
God
think
bless.
we, I think we're going to learn a lot from Dr. Dun, and it's going to really be an additional knowledge and really full of wisdom from you, Dr. Dun, and we really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Good morning, Al. Good morning, Lolit. Good morning, Jeannie. I'm using my daughter's account. I have a problem with my
Good
cell.
morning po. Mhm.
Good morning, everyone.
Yes, good morning, everyone.
JM, good morning.
Hi, Al. Would you like to interview Dr. Dun a bit before we start? But please be, we're already on YouTube live right now.
Uh,
So, but we could be silent at 2 to 8 so we can imbibe the silence for our recollection. Okay? Go ahead, Al.
good morning, Dr. Dun.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Philippines, though
Thank
physically
you.
you are not here.
Yes.
Oh, it's so wonderful to have you with us.
Thank you for
Can
having
you
me.
tell us a little bit about yourself, your practice?
Sure. I was going to talk about it a little bit in the talk, but
Then don't need, Paul.
oh,
Perhaps
okay.
just some essentials. Maybe how you could ask a very direct or specific question for Dr. Dun, like how old is he? Is he available? Etc.
I'm 54 and I am available. Unfortunately, I had gone through a breakup, which was very difficult, but doing fine now. Yeah, doing fine now.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
How long have you been on Oplite?
I've been an oblate for almost 5 years now. I actually became an oblate on Bear Island in Ireland.
Oh, yeah.
Have you been to Bear Island?
No, but I've
No.
read a lot about it because
Oh,
Father Lawrence often mentions it in his
yeah.
writings.
It's so beautiful. It is such a beautiful part of Ireland. It's the most southern part of Ireland. Um, but I went to 3 years in a row. I went to his Bear Island retreat and
Yes.
loved it. And the last retreat that I went on Bear Island was when I became an oblate. So yeah, love it.
Mm-hmm.
I have not been to Bonvo yet. I was supposed to give a talk in September on healing heartache through Christian meditation,
Okay.
but now that's got pushed into next year. So pray that I get a date because we don't have a date on the books now because it's
Oh,
all up in the air. Yeah,
yes. Oh,
yeah.
yes. That will be our love offering to you is praying for your special intentions.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
But that sounds like a very interesting talk that you're going to give.
Yes, I actually wrote a book on it. Like I had gone through a divorce and it wasn't a divorce I wanted to go through, but most people don't want to go through it. And I went through a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, and I had to work through it. And I did find that my daily practice of Christian meditation helped. It really helped. It helped me to learn how to process all the various emotions that I was struggling with, and And so I was able to write about that. You know, it started with a journal, but then it started turning into a book. Um, and so then Father Lawrence asked me if I'd want to, you know, lead a retreat specifically for healing heartache, you know, which is something that we all at some point in our life go through. Yeah.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
And we have been through.
Yes.
Uh, so
Right.
we need to heal our heartaches even of many years back.
Yes, it's true. It's really, really true. It's a human experience. Um, yeah. So, but it's funny because when you go through it for the first time, it's so painful. And I was on personally, I was on like the search for the roadmap. How do I get through this? You know,
Yeah.
and in a way, I kind of was able to find a roadmap. You know, um, and even though it was my roadmap, I think it can help others find theirs. You know,
Yeah, right.
yeah, yeah.
Yes. And how does being an oblate make a difference in your life?
That's a good question. I think for me, I wanted to feel like I was practicing meditation already twice a day, and I was reading the hours because that's part of the promise of an oblate is you meditate twice a day, you read the hours, and you read from the rule of Saint Benedict every day. You know, and that's the
Mm.
three promises really that you're making, and then you're also uh, you know, promising to do some of the work. You know, that could be running a Christian meditation group, or even right now this is this is doing some of the work. You know, um, and so for me, making uh, uh, a verbal promise from my heart to be part of a community that is spreading, you know, Christian meditation, it just makes my life more meaningful, you know, and so yeah, I think that's the answer. You know, I feel like I have a more meaningful life because of the
Mhm.
oblate experience. You know?
Oh, yes. I
Yeah.
think that was the reading today in Lord's to confirm your call and election, because by doing so, you will not stumble.
Thank you. Yes.
That was the reading today in Lord's. It's from, I think, the first letter of Peter.
Okay.
But we're Saturday today.
Okay. Yes.
So that's the reading for Saturday. You'll read it tomorrow.
Yes. I'll read it tomorrow. Yeah, you guys are ahead of me.
Yeah, one day more or less, or
Yeah, you
half.
guys can tell me if it's going to be a good day. Is it going to be a good day? Is Saturday going to be a good day?
Oh yes, definitely,
Oh, good.
because we're having the contemplative day, and you're with us. So yes,
So, may
yes.
I just remind you of the time? It's 7:59.
All
Can we
right.
now be silent?
But yes, JM. Thank you, Paul.
Hmm.
May we request everybody to keep their microphones muted so that this would not interfere with the proceedings, and we will begin shortly.
Let's first spend a few moments in silence to offer up in our prayers today the special intentions of our speaker, Dr. Paul Edward Don, and all the prayer intentions we are carrying in our hearts. The prayer intentions of those who have asked us to pray for them. Let us also pray for those who are most in need of prayer today and those who have no one to pray for them. Our contemplative day today is a love offering of the World Community for Christian Meditation. WCCM is as a monastery without walls because it teaches us the discipline of daily contemplative prayer or Christian meditation and encourages us to live a contemplative lifestyle within our individual stations in life. What is Christian meditation? Pure prayer, or the prayer of the heart. The prayer of leaving the self behind to be with the God in our hearts was taught and practiced by the desert fathers and mothers in the 3rd and 4th centuries of Christianity. Father John Main, OSB, rediscovered it for our time and taught and practiced it until his death in 1982. He called it Christian meditation. Today, Christian meditation is the mission of WCCM, which was established in 1991. Now, what is our contemplative day going to be like? Today, we experience a rhythm of silence, punctuated by the sound of words, chants, and a bell. Silence into which sound breaks, fading into silence again. The silence opens the ears of our heart to listen deeply to the God within and to one another. After this introduction, a chant ushers us into our prayer session. A brief verse from Psalm 128 follows, then a prayerful reading from the writings of Father John Main, after which we sit in Christian meditation for 20 minutes. Then Dr. Paul Edward Dunn, a clinical psychologist from New Jersey, USA, will inspire us with his talk on open to obedience for mental health and spiritual growth. A sharing of reflections on the talk follows. And after the sharing from our participants, we sit again in Christian meditation for 20 minutes. A verse from Psalm 143 is prayed, announcements are made, and a chant ends our contemplative day. We may then leave the contemplative prayer room, lovingly carrying and lovingly being carried in the silence.
Christine, may we have your chant now?
Oh Jesus, I surrender myself to you. I surrender myself to you. Take care of everything, Lord. Oh Jesus, I surrender myself to you. I surrender myself to you. Take care of everything, Lord. Oh Jesus, I surrender myself to you. I surrender myself to you. Take care of everything, Lord.
Psalm 128, verse 1. Blessed are all who fear the Lord, who walk in obedience to Him.
A reading from John Main on obedience. The present Christ. If our motivating force is self-will, we live in the prison of our own desires and disappointments. If, on the other hand, we have turned away from this force and are motivated away by the divine will, we are swept into a liberty without frontiers, in which everything in our experience is transformed into gift with epiphanies.
With those of us trained in a traditional religious vocabulary, need to remind ourselves of the infinite liberty that is implied by a phrase like the divine will. It is easy to limit this will by analogy to our own wants and needs and desires. The next step, following logically but leading into absurdity, is to see the function of prayer as somehow influencing the divine will, trying to make the divine will coincide with our will. It is a good example of how dangerous and illusory any deduction or action becomes, whether in the material or spiritual sphere, when our point of departure is egoism. The actual experience of our potential for egolessness, our meditation, is therefore vital for a right ordering of our perspectives on reality. It is only when we begin the journey away from egoism that we can construct a religious language that really does make sense. From the basis of spiritual knowledge, we know that to speak of the divine will is not to speak of what God wants. It is to speak of what He is. Then we will know too what Dante meant in his great saying, "In His will is our peace." What is the divine will? It is simply love.
Because Saint Benedict knew this mystery and lived out of it, his rule can only be understood if we see the harmonious interdependence that he saw between obedience and love. In his vision, monastic obedience was not mature, while there was only trace of fear in it. We obey because we listen and respond out of love. This central and centralizing vision serves to align the whole person, body, spirit, mind, and heart on the divine reality.
Let us prepare ourselves to sit in Christian meditation. As we sit up straight in our chairs, with our back straight, relaxed but not rigid, and our feet flat on the floor, we can place our hands on our lap and gently close our eyes. As we become aware of our breathing, inhaling and exhaling, in, out, in, inhale deeply, and exhale slowly. Deep, slow. Become calm, more at ease. Smile and release all tensions, aches, and pains. Relax our shoulders, our faces, our whole body. Inhaling, be in the present moment. Wonderful moment. Inhaling, bringing us into the presence of God. Our God, the God of presence.
Makalangit na Ama, pakibuksan mo po ang aming mga puso sa isang katahimikan kasama ang Espiritu ng inyong anak. Pangunahan mo po kami sa di maririp na katahimikan kung saan ang inyong pagmamahal ay ipinahahayag sa mga tumatawag na Maranatha. Alina.
We prepare ourselves to pray our prayer word, Maranatha. Continuing to say it inwardly in our minds until the end of our sit. Maranatha. Should thoughts or emotions arise, we gently lay them aside and return faithfully, lovingly, and gently to our prayer word, Maranatha. We continue to say our prayer word until the end of our 20-minute sit. we remind you to please mute your microphone. Let us all mute our microphone. Let us now welcome our speaker, who is all the way from New Jersey, USA, a Benedictine oblate and a clinical psychologist, who will talk to us about being open to obedience for mental health and spiritual growth. Let us warmly welcome Dr. Paul Edward Dunn.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for welcoming me and thank you for inviting me. I met JM about a year and a half ago on a Holy Land retreat with Father Lawrence Freeman. So that's how the connection came to me, you know, so I'm thrilled to be here. So thank you all for having me. And hey, Maria, I see you in there. How are you? One of my friends from our Christian meditation group joined. So that was nice of you. So you guys are all actually ahead of time by 12 hours. So I was hoping you could tell me what the lottery numbers are going to be. So
anyway. Share the prize.
Yes, I will donate it all back. So, okay, I thought what I would do is just do a little bit of an intro and then talk about obedience a little bit and then talk about how being obedient to the teachings, and we'll talk about that, how that I believe could have a positive effect on our mental health. Okay, so as far as an intro, yeah, I do have a PhD in clinical psychology, and I run a small private practice here in South Jersey, where I work with counseling clients, mainly young people, well, people of all ages, with adjustment disorders or depression or anxiety, panic disorders, or relationship issues. And then I also have another role, another job where I manage a team of nurses throughout New Jersey and parts of Pennsylvania, where we go into patients' homes and we educate them about their disease as well as the medication that they've been prescribed. And that's for a large biopharmaceutical company. So I have like two roles that I play. But even in that role, I'm very involved with resilience, very involved with mindfulness, bringing mindfulness to the organization. And so my interest in meditation and mindfulness has kind of seeped throughout my life now, which I'm very happy with because it's a great gift. As far as, I'll give it a real quick short history of my experience with Christian meditation. About 10 years ago, I became a bit obsessed with mindfulness from a psychologist perspective, because I was trying to find a process, a way of helping people to calm their mind, find peace, and really connect with themselves. And it seemed like all the literature was pointing towards mindfulness, which is a big part of the positive psychology movement. So I started reading books and going to workshops and really getting into practicing meditation. And I would start and stop and start and stop. But then I read a book, and many of you may have read it. If you have not read it, I highly, highly, highly recommend this book. It's called The Good Heart by the Dalai Lama. And basically, the good heart was the recordings of the Dalai Lama speaking at a John Main seminar. But it's a great book, really, really good book. And I didn't know anything about it, but I started reading the book because I loved the Dalai Lama. And I was reading the introduction of the book. And in the introduction, the person that was writing it was talking about Christian meditation. And I'm like, Christian meditation? I've never heard of that before. And talking about the early desert monks and how they practiced meditation, and you know, the teachings of John Cashin and how that influenced these early monks, or actually how he was influenced by them, and he captured in writing how they were doing this. I never heard of any of this before, and I was raised Catholic my whole life. So that really got my attention. And then when I got to the end of the introduction, it was signed Lawrence Freeman, OSB. And I remember I was in my house, you know, reading this book. I was actually in my bed reading this book. And I remember saying, Lawrence Freeman, who is that? You know, like out loud, you know, like I was so captivated by what he wrote, but then I never heard of the guy before. So then quickly I went to my computer and Googled his name. And then I found the World Community for Christian Meditation. And from there, little by little, I met Lawrence Freeman multiple times now, but at that time, I saw that he was running a retreat in New Jersey, and I attended that retreat, and basically I got hooked because once you've met or listened to Lawrence Freeman, you just you just get pulled in, because you can tell that he speaks the truth. He's eloquent, not like me. I'm not eloquent at all, but he is, and he has a way of touching people and encouraging people to really give Christian meditation a real try, to find out for themselves if that helps them on their path, on their journey to God, you know, and certainly has for me. So that's kind of my intro into Christian meditation. Okay, and then obedience. I wanted to talk a little bit about obedience. And by the way, I thought everybody did a great job with the readings. And I also particularly liked, I think his name is Yuri, who read the Psalm 128, you know, Psalm 128. It's such a short sentence, but it's packed, isn't it? It says, blessed are all who fear the Lord, who walk in obedience to him. And I was thinking two words in that sentence that stand out to me. One is fear, and the other is obedience. And Lawrence Freeman talks about both of these words. When Lawrence Freeman talks about the word fear, it doesn't mean what we think today of the word fear. You know, a lot of times I'm actually working with people who have phobias, who have a lot of anxiety, a lot of worry, and you know, I try to help them understand the difference between worry and fear, you know, and I could go into that, but that'll get us off the track. But Lawrence Freeman actually describes the word fear written here about the fear of God, not necessarily as a trembling out of being scared. You know, we're not being asked to be scared of God, but actually in awe of God. So blessed are all who are in awe of God. You know, so it's fear in this way. It's more like the greatness of God, the overwhelmingness of God, you know, so it's the in awe of God, you know, which is very different than scared of God, you know. And then the other word is obedience, so blessed are all who fear the Lord, who walk in obedience to him. From a Benedictine perspective, what obedience actually means, because obedience is actually one of the promises you make as an oblate. As an oblate, you promise stability, fidelity, and obedience. And the word obedience, the way John Main defines it and the way Lawrence Freeman define it, is deeply listening. So deeply listening, rather than, like my son, he's going in the Marines in September, and in the military, you have to be obedient. You have to follow orders. You have to follow the chain of command. So that has a very specific understanding of what obedience means. But from the Benedictine perspective, at least according to Lawrence Freeman and John Main, obedience actually means listening deeply. So listening deeply. So if I were to read this psalm again, changing the words, a little bit to what I just said, just notice how it sounds different. Blessed are all who are in awe of the Lord, who walk in deep silent listening to him, deeply listening to him. Let me say that again. So blessed are all who are in awe of the Lord and walk in deep listening to him. I guess deeply listening to him would be the phrase. But it does change it a little bit. It's like being in awe of God and listening deeply to God. Listening deeply to God is being obedient. Is being obedient. And I wrote down a couple notes. All right. So if you see me looking down, it's just because I wrote down a couple notes that I thought might be of interest. One is John Main talks about listening deeply to the mantra. So being obedient to the mantra, and the mantra that we use, the Maranatha, and I'm sure all of you know this, but just in case you didn't, it actually comes from the first letter to the Corinthians. The very last sentence in the first letter to Corinthians, Paul writes, "I, Paul, write you this greeting in my own hand. If anyone does not love the Lord, let him be accursed. Maranatha. The grace of the Lord Jesus be with you. My love to all of you in Christ Jesus." And it's very interesting. This letter was written in Greek. At the first writing was in Greek, but that phrase Maranatha was Aramaic. And even today, you read the Bible and it's in English or whatever language you're going to read it in, but the Maranatha remains in Aramaic. And Lawrence Freeman talked about that, one of the reasons that John Main chose that particular word is that word was a holy, sacred word in our tradition. So if you choose to use that mantra as your mantra, you're choosing a word that has been in our tradition from the beginning. And so it's a nice word, a nice phrase, to be mulling over, over the years that you meditate. So that's one thing I wanted to say. The other thing that I thought was important is Don Main talks about the three S's, for, as far as Christian meditation is concerned, the first S is sitting still, right? The second S is sitting in silence. And we can't always control the noise outside of us, but we can try to control our own noise, try to reduce whatever noise we're going to make to really reduce that. And then the third S is simply repeating the mantra. And most of the talks that John Main gave, he really focused and really hit that home, the focus on the mantra, saying the mantra from the beginning of your meditation until the end, and it's a constant repeating of the mantra to yourself. And though that is very simple direction, right? It's very, very simple. It's not easy to do. And I'll tell you why it's not easy to do, because, the Buddhists would say we all have monkey brains. We have like like you think of a tree with a bunch of drunk monkeys, just dancing around and being crazy. That's me. I don't know if that's you, but that's definitely me most of the time. And here's a couple facts that you may know, but you may not know. Recently, scientists have been able to estimate that the average adult male, or the average adult, not male or female, the average adult thinks between 30 and 50,000 thoughts a day, every single day. So every single day, each one of us think about 30 to 50,000 thoughts a day. Now you may think like that's a lot of thoughts, and it is, but most of these thoughts are old repetitive thoughts that are just streaming through the mind. Some of them you've had since childhood, some of them are new. Some of them are memories, some of them are plans, some of them are just you're having a feeling that flips through your mind. Some of them are little memories, clips, that just all of a sudden show up out of nowhere, and there it is, but then it's kind of gone. These are all thoughts, and they're all happening all the time. Your mind is always thinking. Thank goodness, right? Because without a thinking mind, we wouldn't be here. But unfortunately, and this is another truth, about 80% of these thoughts, number one, are repetitive, but number two, tend to be negative. So our mind has a great tendency towards negative thoughts. And so I don't know if any of you have thought this to yourself, where you're like, why am I so negative today? It's just like, I just feel like, oh, I'm thinking such negative thoughts today. That's fairly typical. One of the reasons for that is negative things like anxious thoughts have a sticking in our brain. They stick around longer. Or if somebody gives you an insult, let's say a coworker or a friend or a family member said some insult to you, that insult has a better chance of sticking around longer in your head than a compliment, which is very sad. It's very a shame that an insult can stick around longer than a compliment. But the reason is our brain is trying to protect us. Our mind is always trying to keep us safe. And so one of the ways it tries to keep us safe is it tries to remember danger and tries to remember pain, so that we don't go do whatever it is again. Unfortunately, because it's remembering all this stuff, it can get us stuck in a negative state of mind, and today, you know, as we're all continuing to face this pandemic, you know, of the COVID-19 and its effect on the world, the news, I can't watch the news. I don't know about you guys, but I can't watch the news because you get bombarded with so much negativity, and my mind is so sensitive anymore. It's like if that negativity goes in, I'm like, you know, it's like too much. And I do think one of the reasons that it seems like so many people are going crazy is there is so much negativity, negative information being bombarded on people, and they have no way of getting rid of it, you know, and that kind of brings us back to mindfulness and meditation. The last thing I wanted to focus on is the mental health benefits. I just want to check on my time because I lose track of time. 20 minutes. I already talked 20 minutes. Can you believe that? Okay, I'm going to try to bring this to a head. Yeah. So uh, one of the gifts of being obedient, so listening deeply to the teachings of John Main and Lawrence Freeman, you know, and John Cashin, the teachings of the early Christian desert monks, is in my opinion, uh, uh, what we just did and what we're about to do again, when we sit in silence and we sit still and we simply repeat the mantra and we let go of all those 30 to 50,000 thoughts that are going to stream through our mind. We lay them down. We, you know, the Christians call it poverty of spirit. The Buddhists call it emptying oneself, you know, but from my perspective, it is the only process that I know of that actually teaches the brain how to let go, how to lay down, you know. And I mentioned before this started, excuse me, I had gone through a breakup of a very important relationship, and it was very, very hard on me, really, really hard. It took me a couple of years to get my head around it, and I had to work through it. And I meditated every day, and that was my heaven. That was my time that I actually wasn't in pain, you know, and those periods of time allowed me to ultimately process it all and ultimately heal, you know. And I've done a lot of work with grief groups, working with grief groups, and I have taught them how to meditate, like we were taught earlier in this session. And I remember this one man who was deeply in grief. I mean, he was so, so sad and angry and upset. He said that was the only time he has experienced since his wife had died where he actually felt peace. And so he became hooked on it, you know, on Christian meditation because it gave him a sense of peace, you know. Lawrence Freeman talks about one of the big difference between, say, a mindfulness practice, which I'm all for mindfulness, and a Christian meditation practice is, he says, when all of a sudden you shift your focus towards repeating the mantra as a prayer, that this is a prayer, it goes deeper. You go deeper into the kingdom. That's what he says. And I think that is true. I think that the contemplative practice of daily Christian meditation gives us an opportunity to go deeper into ourselves, you know, but ultimately into the inner room, you know, that Jesus talked about. Go into the inner room and close the door, and pray to your Father in secret. That through the practice of Christian meditation and the laying down, the laying down of all of our fears and worries and anxieties and plans and thoughts and ideas, laying them down and constantly returning back to the mantra, returning back to the word, we 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 kind of shed ourselves of all the stuff, and we enter into that inner room. We enter into that space where God exists. Obviously, God exists everywhere, right? And God exists in all of us all the time, but we're not really aware of God truly unless we, unless we detach ourselves from everything else. And I think that that's one of the big gifts that we get from Christian meditation. Let me see if I had left anything on the table. I think I got it all. Let me just check on the time. Yeah, 25 minutes. So I'm going to end there. All right. Hopefully I said something that was good. But I'm going to end there, and then we'll see what kind of dialogue happens after that. Okay. So there you go.
Thank you, Paul, for that deeply inspiring talk. Oh, you have shared with us many thoughts worth chewing on. So we now invite you, our dear participants, to share your thoughts and reflections. What resonated with you? Before sharing, please remember to unmute your microphone. Then say your full name and share in 1.5 minutes. At 1 minute, the bell will sound to signal you have 30 seconds to conclude your sharing. And when you finish, please remember to mute your microphone again. After each sharing, we pause in silent, deep listening. Then the bell will sound to invite the next sharer. So may we now ask anyone to share your reflection.
May I share, Al? This is Mayang Season Pascual, and I just like to say how much I appreciate you redefining or explaining what the fear of the Lord really means in that particular line, because for the longest time I cannot understand why I should fear a person that I love, that I want to be with, that I'm attracted to. And so when you said that it is in awe of, it was something that that was what I've been wanting to describe how God is to me, aside from the fact that I really want to cleave or to cling to Him because He is the source of everything, including my life, and without Him I am nothing. So it was really, really so, how do you say, such a relief for me that there is that particular description or a definition more succinct and more real and authentic in describing that word fear in the olden times, and how you're able to relate it, and it's so relatable now. So that's it. Thank you very much for listening to my share.
Hello, Dr. Paul. This is Lolit Abanyo. I'm a guidance counselor, although I retired one. But what resonated with me with what you shared was that when you said negative things and feelings tend to linger longer
Yes.
in our mind. And then you said also that it is actually a protective gear for us.
Yeah.
But my question is, how can we revert back to, if the negative thoughts linger longer, how can we be more positive? How can we counteract these tendencies?
Yeah. Good
Thank you.
question. Thank you. And I'm sorry I didn't respond to Mary Yang. Sorry about that. I wasn't sure if I was supposed to talk back, but I agree with you. Yeah, I agree with you about the understanding fear and awe. Being in awe of it changed my idea as well. That was Lawrence Freeman actually that taught me that. And then to your question, I think we have to work even harder at being more positive with each other, giving genuine compliments and loving compassion towards others, because the negativity sticks, but so does positivity. Love works. It helps. But as a guidance counselor, I'm sure you're working mainly with young people, I'm guessing. Yeah. And they're walking around with so much negativity in their mind. And so I'm sure when you're kind to them, they respond, because it's important. Oh, and one thing I didn't say in my talk, and I meant to, was there are the American Psychological Association talks about how to encourage resilience in others and in ourselves. And there's 4 main areas that they focus on. And one of them is connection. And connection would be like connecting to someone like you, an empathic person, someone who it's very important that all of you on this call, as well as everybody, seeks out and develops friendships with empathic people. It's important for us to be empathic towards others, but it's also very important that we are in relationships with people who give us attention and care. That we don't need it 24/7, but we have to have a couple key people in our life that we can go to and talk to and count on them giving us attention. That helps us become more resilient. That helps us be able to handle obstacles better. So that's one of the 4, all right? And I'll go over the other 3 real quick. The other is wellness. And wellness It includes physical wellness, so eating well and exercise, but then also mindfulness. So taking care of the mind, body, and spirit, wellness. So that's a very important part. And that's also where meditation, right, fits in. And then the third area is healthy thinking. And healthy thinking means, you know, uh, looking for the positive and looking for how do I make this situation better, so we all know, optimists and pessimists, and all of us can be optimistic sometimes and pessimistic sometimes. But the research shows when we focus more on health, more on the optimistic side, not Pollyanna, like, oh, everything's wonderful, but more on how can I make this better, type of an approach. We become more resilient. We're able to handle problems and obstacles better. And then the final thing was purpose. Finding purpose, living with purpose, and I think that, like all of you right now, you are praying together, you are meditating together, and that has purpose, it has meaning, and so you're actually building your own resilience, your ability to handle change and obstacles by being on here, so I'll just go over them real quick. So it's connection, but it's connecting to empathic people, wellness, healthy thinking, and purpose. They're the four pillars that if everybody focused on those four things every single day, you will just become a more resilient person. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Paul.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. Yeah.
Good morning, Paul.
Good morning.
Yeah, this is Net Muescan. I'd like to ask, and I was really affected by when you said, go deeper into ourselves in the inner room with Jesus. So, with what's happening around us, it's some kind of hard to go into our inner room. So, what can you suggest? Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. That's a good question. Um, well, I, I think if you're able to find a quiet place in your home that you could, sit in silence, for John Main always recommends 20 minutes minimum, and he says 30 minutes is the optimal, but I typically go 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the evening, but if you're able to do 20 minutes, great. If you can't, do 10 minutes, but sitting in silence, sitting still and repeating the mantra, that will lead you into your inner room, that Jesus is talking about. Because by saying the mantra, and every time you get distracted, which you're going to get distracted, as soon as we begin, we get distracted, right? Because our mind is still streaming thoughts. But every time you become aware that you're distracted, you're not saying the mantra, and you let go of that distraction. You don't finish the thought. You let it go and you return back to the mantra. You are going into the inner room. So it's being faithful to the mantra, constantly going back to the mantra. That's what brings you in.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Could you say something more about the fourth one, the profit? I'm not even sure whether it's PROFIT or PROPHET.
Oh, purpose?
Profit, what you were talking about, the fourth thing.
Four
Besides,
pillars. Yeah. The four pillars. The first is connecting to empathic people. The second one is wellness. So mind, body, wellness. The third is healthy thinking. And the fourth is purpose. So purpose is like finding
purpose.
meaning.
Okay, it was
Purpose. Yeah. Purpose. Purpose. Um, it's finding meaning, you know, in life, in your activities. And it could be in any activity, but finding the purpose, finding the meaning, and focusing on that makes you better able to handle change and obstacles.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good morning. I'm Rory. I'm Rory Adriano. I'm with the Christian Life community. I resonate and I thank you very much for pointing out that we have 80,000 thoughts a day.
Yeah.
My God, that's very valuable to me because I thought that it does, it's not a common thing. And I'm a sensitive person. So I keep on, thoughts, especially you said negative thoughts, insults, or,
Yeah.
and then a number 3 in Enneagram. So I care about image, how
Yeah.
people think of me. It just keeps on repeating.
Yes.
So thank you very much for that. So are you saying that the 20-minute meditation will help me with that, deal with that?
Yes, it will. It will. It totally will, because by meditating, you can't turn off the thoughts. All right, the thoughts keep coming, but what you can do is you can learn not to attach to them. You know, so like all of a sudden a memory goes through your mind of somebody insulting you, you know, and they shouldn't have insulted you, right? But it goes through your mind, and then you start feeling bad again, and then you start thinking, why did they do that? I can't believe that, you know. And now you're kind of feeding the thought, you know. But when you're meditating and that thought goes through your mind of, you know, that person insulted you, and you realize, oh, there's that thought again, but I'm going to say the mantra. And all of a sudden, the thought, like Father Lawrence talks about it, is you're actually allowing your mind to process even wounds, and it processes it without you having to obsess about it. You know, by focusing on the mantra, the thought still occurs, but now you're not giving it energy, you know. And so you start learning you don't have to give all of these thoughts energy, you know, that your mind is going to think them, but you don't have to feed them, you know. And that's a experiential learning. You only really know it by doing it, you know. That doesn't mean bad things aren't going to happen. That doesn't mean your mind's going to stop thinking negative thoughts, but you kind of gain this space from it, you know, from them, and you also gain the ability not to feed them, you know, because they're just thoughts, they're just images, they're just ideas. We don't have to feed them and then get ourselves upset, you know.
Thank you. That's something to share.
Yes. Mm.
Oh, this is JM. Is it correct for me to say, or is this a correct understanding of what you said? If negative thoughts visit me, it is very important to learn to just see them as thoughts and choose with my mind or with my will to just drop, first recognize it's there, and then say, okay, I choose not to think about that. Now, the reverse of this is, does it mean that I can choose through my waking hours just to think of happy, positive thoughts? Not short of being a Pollyanna, but just to put my frame of mind within that perspective. Would you help me with that, please?
Yeah. I mean, I don't have a perfect answer, but I do think you can have the intention. I think it's very healthy to have an intention. Today, today I'm going to look at all the beauty in life. Today I'm going to be a grateful person. No matter what happens, I'm going to that's my intention. I want to be a grateful person. So I think you can set the intention, but the reality is you can't control your thoughts. Your thoughts are going to happen. We our will only takes us so far. So rather than fighting thoughts, just allow them to be, but not energize them, not attach to them, not expand them. Just allow them to be. Because you're going to have lots of thoughts, throughout your day, and some of them are going to be negative, and so you can be aware of that negative thought or that negative memory or that negative fantasy, that kind of streams through your mind. You can be aware of it, but you don't have to feed it. You don't have to run from it, and you don't have to run to it. You can just, oh, okay, and then shift your focus. And you could even shift your focus to repeating the mantra. It's amazing how two things happened to me early on when I started really meditating the Christian meditation way. One is I started sleeping better. I mean, I just had no trouble sleeping, anymore. And it wasn't because I was meditating before going to sleep. I just was, when I was tired, I would go out to bed and I would just go to sleep, and I wasn't being, kept awake by anxious thoughts, which used to plague me. So that was the one thing. The other thing is I found that when I was standing in line or stuck in a traffic jam, my mind would, without me even trying to, it would start saying the mantra. So I would become aware that my mind was repeating the mantra even when I wasn't thinking about it, and that's because I think it started getting ingrained, into me. So I think you can shift your mind to the mantra consciously when you're letting go of negative thoughts, even when you're not meditating. But I think by meditating, you're really kind of practicing it. It's like going to the gym in a sense. You're developing the ability to let go.
Thanks, Paul.
Yes.
Yes, this is Edwina Leung,
Hi.
Paul. Yes, I have a question about connection that you talk about. My son introduced me to this revaluation counseling. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but basically it's a peer co-counseling, and you also make a commitment to meet often. It's just like meditation, maybe twice a week. And basically it's in counseling, they call it ventilation, but they call it discharge in this practice. Is there any value to it if you do it in addition to meditation? It's not Christian. It's more of a discharge sessions.
Right. Yeah, I think any of the mindfulness type practices, as long as you like it, as long as it's like, wow, this is helpful to me, then it's good. There's nothing wrong with it, and and it's a nice addition, to Christian meditation. Yeah, so I would, if you find it helpful, then I would say do it, because that's the important thing. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Basically, it's listening. It's teaching you how to listen to the other person. So they take turns listening to each other.
Yeah.
Just listening. Yeah.
Well, that's wonderful because, when we were talking about resiliency and connecting to an empathic person, it's really being listened to, so if you have a person that is going to give you personally attention, they're going to focus on you and listen to you. That is so healthy for you. Just like when you are listening to another person and you're giving them all of your attention and you're really listening deeply to what they're saying, it is so healthy for them, and so it's important that we're getting it and we're giving it, and it helps us to be more resilient. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah.
I'd like to share.
Go ahead, Yuri.
Thank you for that wonderful talk, Paul. What I resonated the most was your passion and obsession with mindfulness practice. I too was introduced to meditation, being a psychology student and a graduate school student of clinical psychology. And my first initiation in the world of meditation and mindfulness were not really from the Christian tradition. So in 2004, I was introduced to the work of Eckhart Tolle, which is a secular um, awareness or uh, presence teacher. And then in 2008 and 2010, I was also introduced in various Buddhist psychology practices. So I really resonated with that, with what you share, that it was really sort of a coming home to be able to practice Christian meditation, to be able to remain true and faithful to our Christian faith, and at the same time, reap the benefits of mindfulness practice.
Yeah.
However, one of the issues that I've encountered is that my life has become so compartmentalized right now because um, I started practicing other forms of mindfulness meditation in a very secular way, but they came from other Eastern philosophies. So I became so obsessed with the work of Jack Kornfield, John Kabat-Zinn, and then because I was I'm a mental health professional as well. So I read all about mindfulness-based stress reduction, acceptance and commitment therapy, dialectical
I'm
behavior
really into
therapy. So that was
Yeah.
yeah. So I collected a lot of books in that area. However, my problem is my life has become so compartmentalized that I have this secular Buddhist meditation group, and then I would come back to I would go I will I have this community of mental health professionals, and then when would return home to my family and to my community, they're all 90% of them are Roman Catholics, and if I introduce them Christian meditation from this paradigm or from this perspective, I always encounter some form of resistance from people. One of the feedback or one of the things that people would tell me is that their pastor or their priest would always remind them not to empty their minds because it will become an opening or a vessel for bad spirits. So that's one of the things yes, that's one of the things that I have encountered, and then also the lack of motivation for Christians and Roman Catholics to meditate, which I found very different from how those in the New Age community, in Buddhist communities, and in mental health communities, they're so passionate about meditation. So I resonate with your experience, it reminds me of John Mayne's experience of being introduced, being so obsessed about, he was fascinated with mantra meditation.
Yeah.
And then
Had to give it up.
he had to give it up, and he felt really sad that because it was something that empowered him. And then he was so elated when he realized that it was really a Christian meditation is a part of our tradition. So I resonated with that. So probably I'd like you to comment or to just give it your thoughts on how we can how we can encourage Christians, Roman Catholics, and those who are probably not very stable or they don't have a very firm practice of their Christian faith, but are still part of the Christian community. How can we encourage them to take up meditation, Christian meditation,
Yeah.
both as a spiritual practice and as a mental health, probably wellness, as a way to cultivate their mental health and wellness?
No, it's a great question. Thank you. I wish I had the one-liner answer, but I don't. I think the big thing is, you know, because you discovered it, because you found it, and it's in your tradition, and it helps you to know that this contemplative practice is from the moment go. Actually, Jesus was a teacher of contemplation, you know, and Lawrence Freeman does a great job at really pointing out how, you know, especially in the Gospel of Mark, where Jesus is you know, teaching his disciples how to pray. It's all contemplative. All of the things that he talks about are all contemplative, and then how he demonstrates it by 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 going off into quiet, lonely places for long periods of time to pray. I mean, this was all Jesus teaching by example and Jesus teaching by word, how to pray in this more contemplative way. I I I I I don't know, Yuri, if you you know, run a Christian meditation group or not, but that's something to consider doing, because that's what I did. I started running a Christian meditation group, and over time, and it took a few years, it just kept growing, and we get people coming in. Sometimes people come one time, sometimes people come 20 times, you know, and sometimes people come for years, you know. They just keep showing up every time we have our Christian meditation group. But the other thing is, even looking for opportunities, and they just start showing up. If people know that you'd be willing to come and give a little talk on Christian meditation and pray with people, the word gets out, and all of a sudden you get asked, because that's what happened to me. It was very organic, that, you know, now I'll be asked to come and talk to a group about Christian meditation. Because I think a lot of Catholics, I was not raised with it. And I went to grammar school, high school, and the 3 colleges I went to, they were all Catholic, and never heard of Christian meditation before. So it was kind of I really found it in my 40s. And that's sad to me, you know. But, you know, Maria's on the line with us today too. She's very involved in CCD and in teaching kids. And for the last few years, I've gotten very involved at working with the kids and teaching them Christian meditation. Now, probably in the end, all I'm really doing is introducing it to them and giving them a little taste of it. But my hope is that someday, when they're facing, you know, a real problem as an adult, and we all face real problems, they show up, you know, in our life, and sometimes they're really big, and we get challenged at a deep level. There are the times where all of a sudden somebody is ripe to really give, mindfulness and Christian meditation a real try, because they're in such pain because of whatever they're facing. They're looking for peace. They're looking for, a sense of something deeper, and I think it's in those times in a person's life that they're very open to trying and learning about Christian meditation. I don't think Christian meditation is something that most people are going to do, and I don't think we can convince people to do it. I think it's more like we can model it, we can share what we've gained from it, and then if anybody has an interest. I mean, I had a guy the other day, unfortunately his marriage is in some major trouble, and he's a friend of mine, so he was not a counseling client, and he was horribly upset. I mean, really horribly upset. And I listened to him for a while, but then very quickly I'm like, I want to teach you how to meditate. And we meditated for a while together, because I wanted to help him calm down and experience a little bit of peace. Not that it solved the problem, but at least it's a way of helping him to calm down. I don't know if that answered your question, but I don't think there's a simple answer to it. Yeah.
Thank you for that. I already have an idea what to do.
Oh, good.
Because of your suggestions. Thank you.
Oh, good. Thanks.
Oh, hi, JM. JM?
Hi, Shingai. Go ahead.
Hi, Dr. Paul Dunn. Good to see
Okay.
you in your element. You and the pilgrimage. That's
How are you?
to call you doctor is it's amazing.
I miss you and all your pictures.
Have to show up here. No, I really this is really wonderful, and I'm so glad to catch it actually that I could. It's been a bit busy for me, but anyway, I was hoping to just interact on a couple of things that were shared, and then also wanted to share a bit on what resonated with me. Just to Yuri, I think he had such a I think even for me, that question of I myself, I belong to, well, I'm definitely active in one other community. So shout out to Rory, who's here from the Christian Life community. We're from the same community. Actually, yesterday is Feast Day of Saint Ignatius, which we were just celebrating. So it's an Ignatian community, and this afternoon we have a big community celebration. So I just wanted to say that I find that over time, as Paul you did say that this is really an experiential, and meditation is experiential, and I find that as you continue with meditation practice, meditation prayer, I find that you find more connections with other charisms and other prayer lives and other, rather than finding the difference between them and finding the conflict. So that's more of the experience that I've had. And I'm actually so glad Rory's here, because sometimes I wonder how to, every so often I mention to see, I always share in our community, in my smaller community called God's Work in Progress, because we're in progress. And but they pick up on it or they don't. But I feel that there's so much that's that we share, and this could be even an expression of a deepening faith. Even if you are animated by Ignatian spirituality, there's something there. And I think, and I'm glad that Rory is here, because maybe that's something we can share together. Now, the other thing I wanted to, JM, about the thoughts and thinking positive. And I wanted to confirm with you, actually, I remember that Father, in my case, when I brought that question to, a similar question to Father Lawrence about thoughts early on, when, so many years ago, I hope I'm remembering this correctly. He says that it's when thoughts come in, it may help to acknowledge them, because you cannot let go of something you don't hold. So that, and anyway, I hope I remember that correctly. I'm not as eloquent as him, definitely nowhere near. But I have to say that that has helped me in my particular case, as with the monkey mind, you know. And in meditation, I just observe the thoughts pass by, and when they repeat and recur and keep on coming back, I found it helpful to acknowledge them, and then I find that it's easier to let go. And I always remember, and that I take from Father Lawrence. He said, because you cannot let go, what if you can't let go of something you don't hold, you don't grasp, you don't hold, you can't let that go. So I don't know, I'm remembering that correctly, but yes. Did you want to say something first? And my last was what resonated with me. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that makes sense, because I've had meditation sessions where, you know, I'm before the session, I'm upset about something, or I'm trying to solve something, but I'm going to meditate because that's what I commit to doing. So then I meditate, and that thing just keeps showing up, you know. And what I sometimes do is, and it probably goes along with this, is I do acknowledge it. I think what I almost, it's almost like I imagine that I'm able, like, I guess I remember what Lawrence Freeman says, like, lay it down. And so there's almost an imagining of me laying it down, and then I return my attention back to reciting the mantra. And it's almost like, and I'm not forcing it down, so I'm not being aggressive. That's one thing that both John Main and Lawrence Freeman are very clear about. We're not aggressively forcing thoughts away, or emotions away, or images away. We're gently laying them down and returning our attention back to the mantra. And that's the thing. It's almost like we're the returning of the attention is the key. You know, it's you know, so there is a bit of an acknowledgement, you know, that goes on there, but then it's the choice. You know, I'm going to lay you down, and I'm going back to the mantra. And then sometimes the thought doesn't show up again, but it might, you know, it might show up 3 seconds later, you know, the same thought, you know, and then I gently lay it down again until eventually it does seem to, you know, lay down. Yeah.
But even if it doesn't, we just keep on anyway. And I think that's the point. It's about the keeping on, and returning. It's about the returning. That's our life. We're always returning to the Lord, and we're always returning. And that's the experience of the meditation. So the last thing where I wanted to end was what resonated with me. Actually, I wanted to pick up right away from what Mayang, who first shared earlier, was on the Psalm. How you reinterpreted the Psalm, I thought was really, I know I had to take my notes, and but she focused on the fear, and I'll focus on the obedience. You know, as listening deeply, if I remember it correctly. And just a side note, when I was seriously considering whether I would pursue the religious life, okay, the deal breaker for me was obedience. But now, to have it as, you know, like you talk about the marine militaristic type of obedience, and I'm like, for various reasons, that's just going to be too hard. First of all, I am very personality driven. So if this person isn't worth following, why would I obey? So, there's all this things, but the listening deeply, I find that because what meditation as a practice has given me, not just in prayer, in my prayer life, but in my life in general, is a listening disposition. Because it's a receiving disposition and it's a listening disposition. That's my experience of it. And so where that helps me in a time like this, in the season of the pandemic, for instance, is that it that being in that listening disposition takes me out of a controlling space, and so and somehow that really frees me up from a lot of my anxiety, my fears, and so on, because it let I, you it it enables me to let go and let God, to just lose myself in the arms of God, being less, I guess, less because you're less controlling, so you're less looking at yourself, and that gives more space to God, and somehow space for God, more space for God, which I feel and really takes away a lot of the fear and the anxiety. And in fact, where I'll conclude is recently I was able to articulate to myself, it turns out the opposite of fear is not courage. Because after all, courage is doing the right thing, even in the presence of fear. So, right. But it turns out I was able to say, the opposite of fear is love.
Yes.
Love is the absence of fear, and meditation and being able to the listening disposition enables me to enter into that love, which gives me this somehow this resilience and all those four pillars he talked about, that's making me not just survive but thrive in space. So thanks so much, and thank you to everyone. Good to see everyone.
Yes, and good seeing you again.
Yeah, likewise. More in the future.
Grateful for all that has been said. Let us gather these in silence as we sit again for a few minutes.
Teach me to do your will, for you are my God. May your good spirit lead me on level ground.
We would like to make the following announcements. Our monthly contemplative day occurs every first Saturday of the month from 8 to 10 a.m. You may participate through Zoom or on YouTube on the WCCM Philippines CDSSS. We also have daily and weekly online Christian meditation groups, and an orientation is available to those who wish to know more about WCCM. For more information on the Contemplative Day, the online Christian meditation groups, and the orientation, get in touch with any of the contact persons listed in the e-poster. I would like to thank Paul for he has made this next announcement so much easier. Today we have encountered and experienced the living Christ within our hearts through Christian meditation, the prayer of the heart in stillness and silence. As Paul has repeatedly emphasized, and WCCM recommends, that we develop Christian meditation into a habit. To sit, as we have done today, for at least 20 minutes, twice a day, once in the morning and once in the evening. Begin tonight, and you will be forever grateful. For Paul, he said that these times of sitting for 20 minutes and just being with the Lord in stillness and silence is heaven. So find out for yourself. Grab heaven and start tonight. WCCM Philippines thanks Dr. Paul Edward Dunn. We are deeply grateful, Paul, for generously sharing us yourself. Thank you for inspiring us. Thanks to all of you who have blessed this day abundantly with your presence. You are truly choice blessings. And special thanks to our sharers and to all those who have helped make this possible. Christine Carlos, Yuri Comendador, Jeannie Concepcion Albano, Vanji Palilio, Lolit Albano, Cora Padua, J.M. Rebueno, and Rizal Pinlac. So this is Auring Suklad, your host, prayerfully wishing you a joyous weekend. God bless everyone.
Thank you all. But before we close in, may we invite everybody. It's still one chance to go. But before that, may we please invite everybody to open your video so that Paul can see all of you. And we will have a group shot, which Chingai will do for us. I'm going to open my video. There you are. And also, let's see, Leila, Rose, Brenda, it would be nice for you to open your video.
Okay, everyone. So there are where we actually have a lot of people this morning, or this evening, as the case may be, for Dr. Dunn. And so we have 2 pages. I'm actually going to capture the screen, 2 screens, and you won't know on which screen you are. So smile for both occasions so that you're sure that you're on both screens. So some people are not turning on their videos, and I think that's fine if that's what you prefer. We're just gonna go and take the shot now. I'm gonna give 5 seconds for those who are still turning on. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, everyone smile. This is page 1. Okay. Hang on. Alrighty, now next, page 2. Smile. And thank you, everyone. We will send the pictures to JM.
And if you could kindly give me your emails, I'll do right back, send it to you. Also, the pilgrims in Paul's pilgrimage might want to give Paul a quick hello. Mitos, would you like to say hi? Unmute yourself, Mitos, please.
Good to see you. Yes. That was
Ella?
such a wonderful trip. Such a wonderful trip.
Are you still with us, Ella? Steve?
Oh, Steve won?
Yes, he's been listening.
Oh, good.
Must be camera shy. Anyway, so okay, so let us now give the floor to Christine. Christine, would you like to conclude everything? Kindly unmute your mic, Christine.
Oh, Jesus, I surrender myself to you. I surrender myself to you. Take care of everything, Lord. Oh, Jesus, I surrender myself to you. I surrender myself to you. Take care of everything, Lord. Oh, Jesus, I surrender myself to you. I surrender myself to you. Take care of everything, Lord. Take care of everything, Lord.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. It's my pleasure and a unique experience. Thank you, Sir
Bye,
Paul.
everyone. Thank you to Paul for that wonderful talk.
Yes, thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you, everyone. Thank you, Paul. Wonderful group. God bless everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you, everyone. God bless. Thank you, Miss JM.